blacksmith shop covered bridge. That's in Cornish, New Hampshire. The New Hampshire Highway Department classification for this bridge, for this covered bridge, is bridge number 21. Site of late archaeological ruins. Evidently old mills ranging from perhaps the 17th to the 19th centuries, during which time use of water power gave rise to a self-dependent middle class with excellent methods of self-sufficiency. Now the ruins beside the old covered bridge serve to remind us of the lost Sylvian lifestyle of the 17th to early 20th centuries. Two covered bridges survive on this watercourse. This one, and one further downstream, the Dingleton Hill Bridge. To the left of the drawing, you'll see that I depicted what's left of the structure. Now just some large stones in place. You see, that's what's left of the structure of an old mill. Some of the stones are still there. Now, I'm not an archaeologist, but without any more information, it's very safe to conclude that the evidence of these remains points to the late 18th century efforts to harness the flow of this stream. The people of those times had something we sorely lack, and that was the ability to procure a middle-class existence with little or no help from an external, specialized labor force. This is one of two covered bridges still standing on this waterway. Down the stream is the Dingleton Hill covered bridge, once built for school children to get over the gorge to school from the Dingleton Hill area. Still nice farm grazing and timberland on a large hill rising very high and looking far into neighboring Vermont with a spectacular view. Down the road from the blacksmith and the Dingleton, if you round the corner as you get to Highway 12, just past the 12.5% solution convenience store, that's what he called it, 12.5% solution, which sometimes sells mugs with my covered bridge drawings on them. But you have to ask, since he uses them for pencil holders behind the cash register. You have to ask him if he sells them. If you ever want to buy one, he probably still has one there. It's been, I think, about 8 years now, or more. No, let's see. I ran around there, and he took a couple of my mugs to put on consignment there in his little convenience store, and that was 1998, so that's like 12 years ago. He probably still has them. Yeah, look behind the register. He uses it to hold his pens and pencils. So they like to do that for some reason, maybe subconscious. They would communicate an element of disdain. I don't know why. So I think it's anti-touristic about the covered bridges. They didn't like the people coming by to see the beautiful foliage in autumn either. They would sneeringly mock them as leaf peepers. Anyway, the scene above was a drawing I did from a photograph I took back in 1997. During a three-week period, I set out to try to photograph all the covered bridges in New Hampshire, but because of my limited budget and time, I only got 50 of them. Many of the bridges I had to locate using a bit of light detective work. Also, because I didn't have a digital camera then, I was limited to one picture of each bridge because of my budget. So I had to make each shot count. I used 25mm regular film cameras, duplicating each shot with a second a yard apart, the second serving as a backup. And also, if the two are superimposed, they make a three-dimensional view. So if you put them together and you look at them cross-eyed, you actually get 3D. But as I say in my joke, I also used to get 3Ds on my report card. But anyway, photographing this bridge wasn't easy. I found a decent spot, or a descent spot, on a large rock in the middle of the small river, which at the time was high and roaring with rapids. I got there safely, moving carefully over the rocks on my tummy, hands, and feet. After I took the picture, I returned to my crawling style to get to the other shore, and came face to face with a cute little pink newt who just stood his ground in front of my nose. "Well, hello there, little buddy," I said, softly, grinning ear to ear. That was one of the high spots of my photo shoot. To this day, I can visualize that cute little fella in my memory. I sure appreciated that encounter. There he was in the middle of this roaring body of water, like it was nothing to it. From that perspective, I was able to participate in the enjoyment of his little universe on that beautiful sunny day. When I got to the other side in the thick underbrush, I found the rim of an old wagon wheel from the 19th century. I brought it back and leaned it against a tree in the yard of the tiny plot of land the mobile home was situated on beside a New Hampshire forest. You owe it to yourself to really just get out there and enjoy some of this beautiful world of ours, a part of the real universe far from the contrivance of humanity. I know things are going on just about everywhere to put a damper on all that beauty, but still in all, it's out there. It's as I said to someone once who was really going through it, and I said that before. In fact, I said it in the last video. The world may have its problems, but it does have some spectacular views. I went to school in the island of Time, in the class where I learned to read the rocks and the animals and the stars in the skies and life's strange mysteries. It's a tiny little island in forever. Call it time. You read the books so written in the stars and in the life. Success and also failure of all the struggles there, and how you too must struggle in order to prepare. Folks think time is all there is and call it life and style. But life is not possessions, and style usurps the smile of love's so silent teaching in time's so tiny isle.